Welcome to the Guardians of Hope podcast, where we bring together parents, nonprofits, legal, and medical experts dedicated to positively impacting children's lives. I'm your host, Cynthia Ramsaran. The thoughts and opinions of my guests are not necessarily my own, so thank you all for joining and sharing. All right, welcome everyone. Today we are honored to have with us Malika Williams, founder of the Live Outreach, an organization that's redefining what support looks like for youth in Detroit. From her own experiences as a teen mom in foster care to launching a nonprofit that's touched countless young lives since 2014, Malika's story is one of resilience and vision. Now she's taking her mission mobile with an innovative mobile mentoring hub project that's set to break down transportation barriers and bring vital resources directly to families in need. Welcome, Malika. Thank you so much for joining.
Good morning. Yes, how are you? Good morning.
Good, thanks.
Thank you for having me on here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. I want to talk more about your journey. So let's start with from being in foster care to founding the Live Outreach. It's remarkable what you've done. Could you take us back to the moment when you realized you needed to create this organization and what spark led to the formation in 2014?
It was a thought that I had been thinking about doing for a while. Originally, I wanted to get like a transitional house. So I was speaking with a former foster mother that I had a really positive relationship with, and she had some interesting information. And so I said, well, maybe, I should really, and she really just one day said, well, why don't you, just start putting the paperwork together to just, kind of do it. And I don't know, I just, it was just, I want to bring programming and I want to connect with that particular demographic, because I felt like it was just a demographic that was, you didn't hear a lot of people supporting like you would want it. So I know the resources wasn't there for me, or it wasn't, provided where it was readily available. So I wanted to be able to provide that for like a younger version of myself. So I created and molded Live, I guess, to a capacity of, I would always say like for the younger me, for what I needed at that time. So just trying to give back.
So the Live Outreach began by focusing on young women. You mentioned an example of a young woman transitioning from foster care, but you've expanded to serve all youth ages 12 to 17, right, more broadly. What led to that evolution, and what have you learned about the needs of young people along the way?
What I'm learning is, as the world evolve, right? You got technology evolving, things with AI. The key is just so different than what it was for me when I was growing up. So you have to look at them as individual people. And I think when we were children and we were growing up, because unfortunately, I'm an 80s baby, so I kind of grew up in the 90s era of, when crack was real prevalent in people's households, and, it destroyed a lot of families. And so I'm of a product of something in that nature. So, a lot of kids experience, drugs and violence and different things that created so many barriers that, it's hard sometimes to get out of that. So, when you start looking at other homes, though, they might not have experienced those poverty-stricken situations. They might have experienced some things where they're not living with a loved one, they're in foster care, or and it might be because of those type of situations, or I feel like the situations vary, but everybody had their own individual issues that they cope with. So it's like you have to look at the individual. So that's what I'm learning about the kids. Like, not only do the young ladies need us, the young men need us too. And you don't have enough male, especially Black male role models in these urban communities where, these kids need it. And, these young men know, especially in the city of Detroit, the limit to the recreation centers and the libraries and stuff have tremendously like depleted since I've been a kid in the city of Detroit. So even though, it's very nice parts of the city, Detroit is a beautiful city, but some of those areas that's struggling and weak, was like third worst, country, honestly, at some point. Whereas, it ain't no healthy, food options or no grocery stores, things that people might be in those scarce areas where it might be only 2 or 3 houses on the block. It's just, I don't know, it's just a lot that we can do more. And so, of course, expanding it to a bigger, broader audience was most definitely more like we want to impact more people.
That makes perfect sense. So, Malika, let's talk more about the Mobile Mentoring Hub. It's such an innovative solution to transportation barriers. Could you walk us through how you created this idea and what impact you'll hope it will have on Detroit families and what services you'll provide?
So with the mobile mentoring hub, one of the things, like I always said, I wanted to have something stationary that, represented what Live was about in just a small meeting. Because when you're a grassroots, you're trying to come up with the most innovative ways with low overhead costs as possible starting up, right? Because you don't have the necessary support as you would to be as successful as most like larger organizations that might have those donors, investors, the private donors, all of those things that make them be able to thrive. So it's definitely, you got to get creative. So someone that we knew, that I knew, had this like 14 passenger bus, and I kind of got to asking like, hey, you got any plans to do anything with that? And they were like, that they had bought it and they felt like they had got it for a pretty good price, and they didn't want to pass up the opportunity to have something like that. So I said, you know what, I really think I can do something with that. And so that's kind of how that idea sparked. And so it was some applications that, or I came across a newsletter about the University of Detroit Mercy, Detroit Collaborative Design, would get with certain nonprofits and they would design, so say for an example, I got a building and I needed them to design we would work together to come up with a design and my thought process through the whole thing. And it came under some stipulations, like I had to have so many community engagements to allow them to evaluate what the community thought of this idea, right? Which I love that, because of course it allowed us to get data to know what people in the community want, right? So that, I thought that was real awesome.
I was just wondering how it's going to impact the community, what services you're going to provide.
Yeah, so the services it's going to provide is, so we're planning the way that they design the bus. It is have storage and have transportation where we can still potentially transport 8 to 10 kids safely to maybe a field trip, or maybe if this was a way, because like I said, the barrier is a lot of time with the programming is the kids getting rather picked up or dropped off. The parents is working, maybe they don't have a vehicle. It be all type of circumstances that eliminates the kids being able to get some of these resources. So that's how it kind of was birthed. So we want to be able to have literacy. Literacy is a big part of what Live is about. Reading. We understand that Detroit do have a literacy. Our rate is not where we need it to be, even. And so we will have books on there, fresh fruit, toiletry items, possibly, socks and underwear and things like that, t-shirts, hand socks, gloves, hats, just depending on the season.
Mm-hmm.
And, hopefully as we grow, we're able to do other things like provide sessions of, because the way that they design the seats to sit, it'll be like how the train, how you sit on a train and you sit this, you facing two people, so it's not like the regular typical seating that will be in the bus. So I think that was pretty dope how they would set the seating up where we can have we have some really good people that work in the mental health in industry that can come and bring some great resources in that aspect. And hey, we have a thing like, hey, on Wednesday we got Wellness Wednesday. Come on down at the park. As long as you signed up for it, this, that, and another. And not only having that, just having multiple resources while we get people there, because people know, hey, on Wednesdays. And another thing I think of too is a lot of times just being able to pull up where the people are at. If you go somewhere and you pull up with a case, 2, 3 cases full of apples and oranges and peaches, and them kids out there playing at the park, or you got a bunch of kids playing football, or they practice, and you know how practice got a bunch of kids and a bunch of parents just hanging around, and you got this for free for them to have, it's definitely a treat, and it's something that they would definitely. So encouraging healthy eating habits, encouraging, good hygiene, because if you smell good, you feel good, if you look good, you feel good, like all of those things
Mhm.
play into your mental health. So we have to meet people where they at. And I think that's what the mobile hub is all about, is meeting people where they at.
Wonderful, Malika. So, this is a personal question. You mentioned that being a former teen mom in foster care gives you a unique perspective on resource access, just like all the things you just mentioned that you are giving away. How does your personal experience shape the way you approach this program and community engagement?
Because one thing, Cynthia, people got to understand is that nobody life is like where perfect. you know
Hmm.
no one's life is at a capacity where they know it all or they got it all together. The only thing we do is we adjust. So that's just like, things happen, you still human. And I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves grace. And so being like a former foster kid and understanding that, I was in places, and one of the things I feel like I always lack, and even to this day, even as an adult, I still struggle with feeling like I'm not loved.
Hmm.
It's okay to feel like that. And I feel like people don't want to give themselves grace for that. You got to be able to feel something. If it's okay. We human beings. So utilizing this personal experience to be able to get with the youth and connect with them before they maybe you can help some of those traumas while they are very young adult, so that they don't take this up to be, a grown male adult and repeating, patterns and behaviors of generational curse. It's time for us to kind of take accountability, and it's okay. You're not gonna get it right every day. Ain't gonna be great. And I think people need to get that out their head. It's some days gonna be a wonderful day. You might have 2 weeks that's great, no, and you ain't had nothing bad, and then you might have a month worth of hell. It might just be like that. And I think people just don't understand that it just come with adjusting it, how you react. Okay, that you might have not made the best decision, but it's okay, and you'll be okay. So even with saying a story about, because also, I'm an author, and I wrote
Hmm.
an autobiography, and I'm just trying to live. And that's really just what it is. I'm just trying to live. Every day that you get up, you just trying to do the best you can and be the best person you can be. Some days you have some good days, and some times you have some bad days. And nobody could ever say that they don't have that. Nobody could ever say they get up every single day and their day is perfect, and they would never. People do a lot of things, but would nobody never admit that? So I've always been like a person that is never going to take things and just accept it if I don't feel it's right. And at the end of it, that's just always been like the individual I've been ever since I was a kid. So me entering foster care was originally me running away from home because I was experiencing like physical abuse, and it was drug use and different things like that in the home. So it
Hmm.
was like, hey, I'd rather go out there and figure it out. It'd probably be better out there. At least I'm not gonna be getting, any kind of physical harm at all. So, feeling like that at a young age and not feeling protected where you live. And then after that, you get sent all these different places. It's almost now it's your fault that you in all these different places where people really don't care about you. They really barely know your name. So can you imagine that? Because at a young age, you have to be able to process that. And if you can't, what 14-year-old would be able to process like all this stuff? Remind you everything been traumatic. And so this is why I say in my community, it's a always working thing. You always working to be better. You always working to work on your mental health, because these things sometimes very triggering. You got to be open and understanding of that. Sometimes you might. So it's with personal experience, it's always going to be a little pain. And anybody, can't nobody never say they ain't experienced some type of disappointment or some type of letdown or some type of avenue. Some is more just traumatic than others. Some people that have would have been in some of the things I've experienced might have would have felt like they wasn't strong enough to, and I hear that all the time. But when you just believe that you have so much more purpose,
Mm-hmm.
that's really like a self thing. You got to really believe and know that your intent is well, and you know that you mean well, and you okay to say that you human, and life goes on, things happen, but don't beat yourself up, because and I think that's a lot of things with people worry about people judging them, so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love telling my story, because it's like things that I say or even wrote in a book. People have been like, almost like I would never have said that or told that, things that is very personal. But I feel like somebody got to have the courage to say that, listen, you're not the only person that ever experienced that. And it's okay if you hurt by that, or just it's okay to be human and just be yourself.
Exactly. And look at you turning your purpose and into giving back, right? And
Right.
being so honest about your experience. It's amazing. We need more people like you, Malika. We really do.
And then the thing is, life is about people that want to make differences. If you want to be a leader, you have to be authentic with who you are. You get what I'm saying? That's just like a pastor is not the perfectest person. You can't tell me this person ain't never did anything that would be, I mean, it's impossible. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's just like you a human being. So I think that we have put in just we've been programmed to think that that's how life go. But that's one of the things I've been unprogramming myself. Like, I am still human.
Hmm.
Life still happen. As long as nobody is hurt, nothing is, everything is all good.
Well, I have one more question for you, Malika, and I'll let you get back to your busy schedule. For listeners who are inspired by your work and might be considering starting their own community initiatives, what advice do you have for them based on your experience building the Live outreach from the ground up?
One of the things I would say is to kind of first, how I started originally, I know I wanted to do it, but I wanted to kind of get some understanding on the backside of what that looked like. So originally I started signing up for organizations to volunteer that were like organizations I was familiar with, because I had been through their process or their program. So um, Vista Maria is a facility here that houses young ladies. It's like a whole campus. And when I was in Vista Maria, it used to literally be nuns that walked the campus. It was like the coolest thing. It's so many years ago. But they have a school on here, so they have a lot of resources for the girls like on campus there. So I originally started doing a one-on-one mentoring, with a couple kids there, just to kind of get an understanding of like what was their process and procedure with the volunteering process, you know, with criterias and different things like that, because I didn't know. I'm starting from like ground zero. So I started working at places that work just with the community. So they might give out diapers, or they might give out, dry canned goods, or just different things that you would need. Like you might have a closet and you can go in there and get clothes, different things like that. So they had us sorting out some things. Then I worked for me and the team, we volunteered for just a lot. And then what we did also was um we did a lot of volunteering with organizations a lot of people wasn't familiar with. Not saying that wasn't familiar with, we wasn't familiar with them.
Hmm.
It's like, man, so we went to do wigs for kids, and we had to sort through the different hair, and it was just like, it was so, I said, I never heard of wigs for kids, but I thought it was like the coolest thing. And the lady was very nice to us, and she gave me a lot of pointers and tips about collecting data, and just different things like that with servicing your people, because you need that for grants and different things like that. So it was just these different experiences that I had, but I had to basically pull my sleeves up and kind of get out there and constantly do it. And then, of course, I kind of started like maybe doing my first little event. And then I'm, hey, got some kids. And it was a lot of kids, basically, of parents I had knew originally. Like in a few of my first little groups, it was like some other kids, but mostly it was like which made up most of the kids, which I still appreciated, because they, we was able to do a couple field trips. And so this year, that's what we really want to focus on, more programming where we really are connecting with the kids. So I just feel like first kind of start off in the field to get a feel of what that looks like. What's the everyday operational of that? What are some of the things, that you see? Because, somebody can, you can come in and see a volunteer opportunity, and, it might not be what you think it is. So I think a lot of times just kind of really and I think it should be aligned to what you're doing. So I knew that I wanted to work with girls. This facility worked with all girls. It made sense to work with this facility. So if you were thinking of opening up an animal shelter, or you wanted to work with animals to some type of capacity, I would suggest working somewhere closely to, like, maybe a veterinarian that they got, or yeah, something in the animal shelter, something in that, something like in that area. So just making sure it's aligned to what you want to really proceed that, or what you want to build your foundation off of. And one of the things I also learned is you got to know what you are, who you trying to impact. I would say just have it really sharp. A lot of times we start off and say, hey, I want to help everybody in America. Everybody in America, I want to help. Like, so no, they're not gonna give you no money to help everybody in America. You got to be specific. They got to have a certain kind of income. They got to have a certain type of need. So you got to know what that need is, and why your programming or your nonprofit is going to target that need to assist. And once you're able to master that, the nonprofit will definitely take care of itself. If you're able to identify, hey, specifically, so you're able to statistically identify that, and you're able to then, when you bring your resources in and you able to show them how you statistically been helping a demographic of small people that you're helping, then that's when it be able to expand and get bigger. But it does, of course, can believe in consistency. You got to really want to do it, because it's not like running a regular business. It's like you pretty much begging for money every chance you get, or somebody to give you something for free, because that's just the world that nonprofit is in. So, and then you have to show up as a trustworthy, donee. You want to make sure that people know that you're really doing what you say you're gonna do, and so integrity is really important too. So,
Exactly. This is solid advice for anyone who wants to get started, Malika. Thank you.
of course.
Thank you for your time. And why don't you share with us how people can learn more about your organization online and where they can go to support you?
Okay, yeah, sure. We are on, of course, all social media platforms. The Live Outreach, THELIVEOUT. Oh, you see it at the bottom, yeah.
We see it at
So,
the bottom, and I
yes,
will be sure to link to your I will link to your website, your book, and your social media so everyone can access those channels. But how
yes.
can we support you? How are you being funded, and how are people supporting you?
So Give Butter right now, you can link that off of the website, is one of the platforms that I'm utilizing, that I'm starting off to utilize. Of course, you can always donate on our PayPal, the Live Outreach,
Okay.
which is linked onto the website as well, which is theliveoutreach.org. Um, and yeah, really easy organization to find. Just, Google me. And I would appreciate all the support. This renovation I'm excited for. This will be one of my largest fundraisers that I've ever tried to do for Live. So I think that it's time. It's been 10 years now. I think it's about to be 11 years. I think it's time for me to really complete what I started, and just I'm excited for the future.
Excellent. I'm excited for you too, Malika. Happy New Year. I wish you so much more success this year.
Thank
And
you.
I'll stay in touch with you. And I wish you well.
Alrighty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.